All right, everybody, welcome to Wellness Wednesday. So excited that you're here at our brand new time, 7:30 Central. I am joined here today with one of my favorite people, Miss Jordan Davis, who is the Director of Training at My Freed Life. And we're going to continue our conversation on the theme of health that we've been having so far in the month of October. And so Jordan has a lot that she's going to share with you today. And I'm really excited for you to hear this. We're going to start, though, a little bit differently than where we've been so far this month, because this month we've been talking about, kind of your physical health, right? We've heard from Dr. Neela Sandel. We've heard from Susie Tobias. And yet Jordan's going to take us on a little bit of a different journey around this idea of health. And, one of the things that we're learning more and more about as it relates to health and human beings. And it's interesting because Jordan has conversations out in the world or reads or hears things and then brings them to me. And they're almost solidifying the exact same thing that I'm hearing. And yet they're coming from different places. And right now I'm reading this book called The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate. And it's all about how our mindset, the way that we think, influences our health, both positively and negatively. And this idea of spiritual health, this idea that we take care of ourselves from that perspective is so important. And one of the things that I've come back to time and time again is something called the Love Study. And the Love Study is, to my knowledge, the longest active study on human behavior that's ever run. I think it's still going on. It's like 95 years old at this point. I think Harvard is the one that has it. And essentially what they found is that what ultimately contributes to a happy, healthy, vital life is the strength of your tribe, the people around you, your connections. And one of the things that Jordan has assembled and has been running now for 4 years is the Boss Babes tribe. And so Jordan, first, for those who may not be familiar with the Boss Babes, tell everybody what that is, and then tell them why you run that group.
Yeah. So what was it back in 2020, Freed, that you were coaching a number of top, especially real estate agent females that all seem to be encountering the same issues almost the same week. I'm not so sure our cycles hadn't linked up by way of our coach.
Didn't ask that, by the way. I never asked that question.
And you were like, if I could just get you in a room together, I could address you all and be like, yes, you're enough. Yes, keep going. Right? You're strong enough. You're good enough as a mom. It's okay to have a career and be an awesome mom and be a great example. And so after quite a while of not have anything in person because of COVID, I was just like, what if we did that? What if we arranged a conference? And so I started a Facebook group. I just called it Freed's Boss Babes and invited like 24 of the women that you coach. Mm-hmm. And shockingly, 20 of them, like 80%, said yes and showed up. And so that was really cool. Who showed up in the room, excited to learn and grow. And it was honestly like a big experiment that turned into what has now been 5 retreats. We even tried to change the name and we got some pushback from the tribe. And so we are still the Boss Babes. Olivia Manson wore the Grit and Grace that we tried to change the name to, and we got pushback. That was not okay. So they want to be the Boss Babes, and that's awesome. It is a group of women who, learn and play. We take adventures together. We go to different states every time. We are bougie. We get a chef to cater in the meals, and we get a huge Airbnb. We've done some hotels, but we have a growth component. So there's always like a piece that we're learning. We continue to learn from you. Even some of us no longer coach with you. Some of us are in business with you, right? And so there's a growth component, a leadership component, because we want to make sure that we are using our time to show up and not only pour into each other, but continue to have something to take back to our teams, our world, our families. And so, yeah, we probably drink way too much, and there is an accountability component, and then a text message thread that goes on and on and on and on, 365 days of the year, where we stay in community and stay in accountability with each other.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Jordan, because, when you talk about like spiritual health and the connection that's so important, and, we're in an era of time where even though we're digitally connected more than we've ever been, loneliness is a real issue in the world today. I'm curious, like, I'm sure there've been a lot of gifts from you engaging in that group. And I know that there's other groups that you run. But what has been the single greatest gift from being involved in the Boss Babes?
Probably the unconditional love and respect
Mhm.
from the ladies that comes from having this tribe. We've seen women get divorced. We've seen women get married. We've had one of our boss babes pass away, and we've continued to stay in community with her family. We've had women have babies. We've had women go through menopause. We've had women sell their businesses. And it's always a question of, do I still have a place here? And
Mhm.
so quickly, the tribe answers, yes, absolutely. You still have a place no matter what. So there's a certain level of unconditional love and support that we offer each other, regardless of situations and circumstances. And that is what accountability is, right? Accountability is just saying, I love you enough to have a hard conversation. And so even sometimes accountability doesn't feel like love. It really is. And it's that unconditional tribe of women who you can come to and know that they know you and they're going to hold you to what you said you would do, and really support you in what's best for you.
Yeah. And I think that that's really important because, when you think about accountability, right, Jordan, you and I've had this conversation a million times. That word is a word that has been misunderstood and misused in so many different ways. And yet, what it really boils down to is if you're being an accountable person, all that means is that you've set up a system, whether that's with a community or a coach or both, that community, that coach is simply going to help you keep your promises. That accountability is simply an act as it relates to my free life in regards to like one of the all-time, most important parts of that program, which is learning to keep your own promises, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
And
And
staying true to who you are. Yeah.
and staying true to being authentic to who you are. Absolutely. Yeah. And so you had a guest speaker, right? When you were there, I spoke, but then you also had a woman who came in and shared with you specifically about women's health. And I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing just a few of your top 2 to 3 ahas with the people here about what she shared with you.
For sure. So our ages for the Boss Babes range from 35 to 51. So there's a niche group, right? And we're just kind of sandwiched in between where we're raising children, but we're also caretakers oftentimes for our parents, and having some end of life conversations. And I mean, we had a baby at this retreat. So some of us are bringing life in, and some of us are having end of life conversations. And we're just in that sandwich period where we're right in the middle and we're expected to carry both. And you're kind of the backbone for everyone. And so we made it a really big health focus, and we had life force coach Christina King come on and talk to us about the studies she's done in women's health specifically. One of the interesting things I found was that the average age of women that women live to is 78, and it's 75 for men. And I got to be honest, that's so much lower than I thought. Additionally, she looked at not just lifespan, but health span. So how long are we healthy for those 78 years on average? And the average is 65. So we spend 13 years, and I'm not talking about like minor health issues. I'm talking about chronic health issues. And so she is studying and taking a look at what is killing us. What is causing chronic health issues? long term, right? Diabetes, heart issues, etc. And most of it is caused by inflammation as a cause of stress.
Yep.
And when you talk about this generation, this age bracket, you've got stress with bringing children up, maybe releasing them out into the world for college. And then you've got the stress of the older parents that are starting to have those chronic health issues, that are starting to need you, starting to fall and break a hip and not come out of the hospital. Some of us are lucky enough to be having those conversations with grandparents, but many of us are having those with parents. And so it's just a really squished time period with a lot of stress, plus the stress of growing a business. So there's a lot that it deals with in that. And so she, just took a look at how do we eliminate stress? There's good stresses on the body, like workouts are healthy, are good stresses. Cold plunges, you're a big fan of those. I am not. I would.
I'm not a fan of it. I do it because of the mental battle.
I'd rather be on fire than be cold.
It sucks. I mean, I didn't do it this morning. It was so cold outside, but I've done it twice this week, and it's a bitch. I mean, making myself do it is the only reason I do it.
It is good. Like if you have a fairly healthy body and a fairly low stress life, it's really a good stressor on the body. And so we talked about what those things are. Of course, tribes, those are a great de-stressor, to have a group of friends that you can do life with, that do love you unconditionally, care about you, etc. Knowing your core values and leaning into those, and having some boundaries around your life. We also talked about other healthy things like getting enough protein in, weightlifting, etc., exercise, boundaries around even how much you're going to work. It's not the healthiest thing to be the first one in and the last one out every day. Turns out I did that for enough years. And it's really been a journey that I've been on for a year or 2 years in how to get healthy. And, I've had 4 knee surgeries just in the time that we've been coaching, Free.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you don't have your health, like nothing else matters, right? The business, the family, everything rises and falls on your back. And so your health is so insanely important. And, we're just in this undisciplined pursuit of more sometimes, right? What are we even killing ourselves over to accomplish that we're not going to be here to enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And, like one of the exercises, Jordan, that I'll sometimes put people through if I'm doing a free webinar, or Carrie from Boss Babes asked me to speak to a group of agents in her office. And, one of the things I'll have them do is, and I'll just walk everybody through this exercise really quick here. But wherever you are, right, as long as you're not driving while you're listening to us, if you're in a space that you can close your eyes, I want you to just close your eyes and imagine that you're sitting at your kitchen table, and I'm in your kitchen, and I walk up to you and I ask you to put your hands out. Now, I'm not going to do anything grotesque to you. I'm not going to do anything weird, right? But I ask you to put your hands out, and I said, a lemon slice. Now, this is a good size lemon slice. Imagine this is like a quarter of a lemon, right? And I set it in your hand. And so just think about this. Feel the lemon in your hand. You can kind of feel the coolness of the peel, right? And I encourage you, I say, look, this is something that's really going to help your health. I want you to just take that lemon and just bite into the lemon. Just take the biggest bite, almost like you're sinking your teeth right between the lemon and the rind, and then like chew it up. So just feel that for a second. See what that experience feels like in your body. Now, when I do this with people, they have a physiological response. Like I'm sitting here walking you through, talking you through the exercise, and I'm like salivating, because anytime something's sour, right, our mouth is going to respond to that. And so what Jordan is talking about is, it doesn't matter if we're talking in regards to a lemon that you're biting into, or this constant and never-ending stress, which is really just your manufactured approach to a perceived threat. When your mind is focused on something like a threat or stress or whatever, well, then your biochemistry is going to follow. Whatever you hold in your mind, you're going to experience, right? And I was thinking about this yesterday that your life is just a placebo. That's all it is. And you're probably familiar with the placebo effect, right? If you aren't, go look it up. But essentially, you're going to experience whatever you expect, and your body will respond to your imagination, your imaginated experience or a real experience, right? And that's kind of the essence behind this, right, Jordan?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I agree with you. Um, and something that may be perceived as a threat to you, to another person who's been conditioned to that, and gotten through it, and they've seen that it's no big deal, wouldn't be, right? And so obviously if a bear is chasing us in the woods, which by the way, we did go to Montana and we did pack our bear spray. If a bear is chasing us in the woods, we're all going to have the same response, but there's plenty of stressors that we don't have the same response to. And so that's a great indication that that is something mental for you to look into and say, that's interesting. Other people have been through this and it didn't wreck their world. What do they know that I don't know? Or what am I missing in this?
Yeah. Totally. And that's a brilliant point. So Jordan, there was also, you came out of that experience, you text me some pictures, and I responded to you, right, in the text message, and I asked you a question. And so the question I asked you is, if you had to create a coaching program based off of what you heard on this trip, what would be the main theme? And I'm curious if you wouldn't mind sharing your answer with our audience here.
Yeah. It was a broad, if I built a coaching program based on what I understood, I would stop looking at just a small portion of somebody's life if I were coaching them, right? Because if you're just looking at their business, you don't know what happens at night. You don't know how their relationship is with their kids. You maybe don't even know their finances, to be honest. You could certainly coach somebody and have the business finances and not have their overall finances. So I would look to address one that looks at mind, body, and business. I would take, like, Life Force is where Christina Kang came from, where we found her. That's a great company. There's others as well, but they look at your body as a whole and your stressors as a whole, right? Because Freed, if you and I are experiencing the same thing, but you had a full night's sleep and I'm awake with a baby 8 times in the middle of the night, we're going to experience it different. We're going to rate it differently as far as how stressful it was. And so I don't think you can really look at a person in just the, 9 to 5 business and what that life looks like. So something that really addresses the mind, the body, and the business. We invest so much into businesses and even so much into our families. I will drop thousands of dollars on my children. Heck, I'll drop thousands of dollars on my dogs. And I am so stingy with myself.
Yeah. And you and I've even had this conversation, because one of the things that spun out of Boss Babes is the group that your husband runs, the Modern Men, right? And one of the big things that I've noticed is the difference between those two groups is the Modern Men will drop $5,000 per person like that. Not even a second thought. You get women to do that, or try to get women to do that. What's the response you get?
Too much money, too many days away from home. I can't take off that long. Right. And it's like, if you knew that mindset was literally killing you.
Yeah.
And you're like, because I have to be there for my team, because I have to be there for my family. And it's like, that's the very thing that's going to take you away.
Yeah.
It's astonishing. In fact, the same group text was talking about a conference that was going to be about $5,000. And everybody was like, I'm in, because it's learning based. And so they feel justified But when we ask for half of that for a getaway retreat, there's going to be a growth element, there's going to be a fun element, but it seems selfish. We're met with resistance, right? And so it's fascinating. We spend all this money on our businesses and our families, but we won't spend it on ourselves. If I were to do a coaching program, I would do all kinds of genetic testing on a person.
Yeah.
I would look at, food intolerances. That all can be affecting how you show up in the world. I would look at allergies. I would look at like sleep, have the watches on or the Aura ring that measures how you slept, how you're breathing. We talk about that in My Free Life, breathing exercises to calm down. Yeah. And Christina said, don't open it and then start to build a story of how you didn't sleep well last night. She actually does the opposite. She stops and she goes, how did I feel? And then she goes into her app to look and see if that matches, instead of, because it can kind of be
a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And so she does the opposite. She thinks before she loads and opens the app, like, how did I feel? How did I sleep? Do I feel refreshed? With the goal of, every day waking up feeling refreshed and rested.
Vital. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just, what is enough? Like having this enough mark, and your coach should know that mark. And we should know if we're like on pace or not for it, because we do tend to have this scarcity mindset and this endless pursuit of more, that's causing us to stress and try to get more, because we're not taking, an accounting of, maybe we measure the business, we measure our kids' grades, we measure this, we measure that. Are we measuring our net worth? One day, my husband and I looked at our net worth and realized we were perfectly on track for it. And I'm like, then why are we sacrificing so much to put it away, put it away, put it away, put it away?
Yeah. And, to the point that you made about how do you feel, it's interesting, Jordan, like, especially like with wearables or, this morning, I did yoga yesterday, and I was texting with my nutritionist this morning, and I was sharing with her. I was like, I woke up and I could feel that although I got 8 hours last night, I've been really prioritizing sleep. I just feel run down, and yet I'm not going to quit doing yoga. Like, it is my thing. And so what it did was it allowed us to engineer a plan. Like, if I'm going into yoga, I know that I have to load up on electrolytes. I know I'm probably going to have some fruit or something that's going to help. And then she said, you've got to have an immediately after, like, here's the plan you've got to follow. And then here's what you're going to do that night. And so if you're monitoring how you feel, but then using the data to support it, you can make really, really great decisions, right? And that the thing that you're talking about, as far as enough, right? You're probably the person that, and to my knowledge, I mean, as far as like coaching somebody, I don't know that anybody else has ever had this conversation with me. And if I'm being honest, I don't remember exactly when it was, but we were on a call and you said, I realized something. And I said, what's that? And you said, I'm good. And I said, well, what does that mean? And you said, well, I live where I want to live. I vacation where I want to vacation. I drive when I want to drive. Like, I'm good. And, it was cool because it was a moment when the conversation went to the team, and how for you, it felt more like the team was kind of a labor of love, that you were going to turn around and focus on the people that helped you get to where you were, specifically those in your company, and make sure that they got to a point where they were good. And I just thought, man, how much courage does it take in a world that thrives on never enough to just stand up and say, I'm good. Yeah, I am good.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, Jordan, do you remember that conversation?
I do. We were on a webinar, and a lady was talking to us and trying to get us excited about business planning. It was like, imagine you made double the money you make. What car would you drive? Imagine you made the double money you make. Where would you live? Right. And for me, it was a big awakening of, I would live where I live. I would drive what I drive. I would go on the vacations I go on. In fact, I would be uncomfortable doing nicer, bigger, etc. things. Most of all, because when I came back to the people that I love the most, who have helped me grow this organization or helped me build my family, it would be awkward to even talk about because they wouldn't have the means to do the same.
Mm,
And that's when I realized if I got there and did it alone and went on those trips alone and went on those vacations alone, and I was the only one that could afford a luxury car, I failed,
mm,
right? Until I could figure out a way to get my key people that help build this company into six figures every year, into some kind of retirement plan, until I could figure out that, I still haven't made it, because first it's about getting there, and then it's about turning around and helping, other people get where you want. You had asked me once, Freed, about how did you even know you had gotten there?
mhm.
And we had a great conversation around clarity. Brene Brown says, paint that done. I love that phrase. And I'm challenged with that sometimes. I like to say, do this. And my team has come back much like hers and said, can you paint that done? What does that look like in your head? And so when you're thinking about, this is what I desire out of life, to know when you've arrived, you have to have so much clarity and accountability. So, uh, you know, you should be able to literally paint that picture of what it looks like when you've made it. What is the net worth? What is enough? What are the kids doing? How are you making decisions? Is money having to drive those anymore, et cetera? And so that when you arrive, you can know I've made it, and I can stop putting the gas pedal to the metal, right? Because we're there, or we're at least on our way to being there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
and that there's a question that I love to ask, Jordan, which is, and you've heard me ask this before, if God said to you, "Hey, you have an appointment in heaven next Monday, don't worry, I'm going to let you come back to earth, but you have an appointment in heaven next Monday to design your ideal life using the 3D printer I use to design the earth. Could you sit down and intricately design it? Could you paint it as done?" When she's talking about that, that's what you ultimately mean, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do your friends groups look like, et cetera? And I just looked around and realized, like, I had arrived and we were on our way for the financial plans that we have for retirement, et cetera, to feel good. And the only thing that I desired was to have community of people around me. And so that was a really big eye opener, to give back and to leave a legacy in our company, such that other people could come up alongside me and enjoy that life.
Yeah, totally. And I think the other thing, Jordan, and this hit me kind of square in the nose. Actually, it was the person that I was coaching at the time. It hit him square in the nose, and we have to get really good at just recognizing when things are as good as they're going to get. And what I mean by that, like, I had this client and he was going away. He has a lake house that's about 3 hours from here. He lives in Kansas City. And I said, "Hey, I want you to do me a favor. I know that you're going to the lake this weekend." And I've been to his lake house. It's beautiful. His wife is amazing. And he's got two boys. And I said, "I know you guys are going to go out on your boat. And I know you're going to pull out that lily pad thing and you're going to put it on the water. And it's going to be you and your wife and your two boys. And maybe you'll have some friends or somebody with you. But I want you to just take a moment while you're out there to just acknowledge the fact that this is as good as it gets. And if COVID didn't teach us anything, it should have taught you this. It's not about where you're at, it's who you're with." And we need, I think about that a lot too. Like, I have a good friend that holds me accountable to going to yoga. Her name is Carrie Wersch. She's a virus specialist in Springfield, Missouri, with the Grotti team. And, when I come out of a session of yoga, I just don't think that it gets any better than that. You have to acknowledge where this is as good as it gets, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you've done a really good job of.
Yeah. I'm always reminded, in my free life, we cover the 5 regrets of the dying.
Mhm.
And, one of those is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I'd let myself be happier. And I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. And happier is just about acknowledging that you have the things that you always dreamt of. Like you're there. And maybe you desire more, and that's totally okay. But acknowledgement of what you do have and that gratitude allows you to be happier.
Yeah, totally. And I think we would be remiss, Jordan, when you mention that, and I get a little choked up about her. There was a boss babe that we lost,
Mhm.
right? And her name was Sarah Rocco. And Sarah had a birthday, a heavenly birthday recently. And yet there was a book that Sarah was really preaching before she passed. And it's The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Mhm.
And would you mind? I know we've got like 1 minute. Would you mind sharing some of the things that Sarah shared with you all about that book and the impact it had on her life?
Well, a great case in point is on the last call. So we have monthly calls after our retreats. And on the last like catch up call, Sarah was in the car with a guy that she had been dating and her kids and his kids. And they were all on their way to Disney, I believe, like in the middle of the week on like a Monday or something, right? And I actually think it was Friday, and I think she was killed in a car accident the following Monday. But she was just like, I'm playing hooky. We're having a long weekend because we can, because it's someday it'll be too late. And while the kids are still at an age that we can enjoy this and do this, we're going to play hooky, and this is what we're going to do. And, Jordan, you ask us, what are the most memorable moments of 2024? And we record those. And oftentimes they're things that are inconvenient and out of routine. And they take planning a lot of times, and they take you kind of going, I've done the things that I need to do to get to my goals. And now it's time to put it away and go play and go be with people that I love, and go let loose a little bit. And so understanding what your goals are and when you've done the work to get there and when there's time left over, just getting out and doing the things that make you happy, that make life worth living. And that's what I think Sarah Rocco would have been teaching us, and how to live like Rocco.
Yeah. And they called her Sunshine Sarah because she was sunshine. And we love and miss her. She was an amazing person. So, Jordan, I talk to you all the time, and I still ended up with 2 pages of notes.
I did too.
But thank you for being here today. Thank you for the insights. Thank you for putting together the Boss Babes and all the lives that you've touched through that program. And one of the sad things about the impact that we make is we don't often see the ripple effects of our own impact, and I know that you have changed so many lives through that group, and the people that have modeled groups off of it, the modern men, right? We all owe you a big debt of gratitude, even though I know you'll never take it. And thank you for being our director of training and taking the My Freed Life message out into the world. We so appreciate it, and we're all better for your example.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, we will be back next week, same day, same time, Wellness Wednesday, 7:30 Central. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being a member of our community, and we will see you back here next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.